What is the process for applying for asylum if you're an immigrant and come to the border? Well, this is what happens. When you get to the border, if you're lucky, you get offered a credible fear interview with an officer. If the officer determines that you have a credible fear of persecution, then they will actually allow you to come into the United States, but they will give you this document called a notice to appear. So what is a notice to appear? A notice to appear is a document where you are required to appear in court to fight your asylum case. So, what's the next step after you're allowed into the country to file for asylum? That's exactly what you do. You fill out the asylum application, form I-589, application for asylum. You turn it in to the immigration court. You will also be set for a master hearing, which is a preliminary court hearing. In the master hearing, typically you say your name, your address, if you're represented by an attorney, that you give permission for your attorney to represent you. And then the judge asks what type of case it is, what defenses you have. Your attorney will say you're fighting for asylum, or you will say you're fighting for asylum. And then the judge will schedule a final court hearing called an individual hearing. Now, to make this process more efficient, often, if you're represented by an attorney, the attorney will actually file what are called written pleadings, where you take care of all of the preliminary information, for example, saying yes or no, you're in agreement to the allegations in the notice to appear, and they will actually cancel your master hearing and automatically set you for your final individual hearing. Typically, it's years into the future. Then what happens? Well, 150 days after you file your asylum application, you can apply for a work permit, also called an employment authorization document, or also known as an EAD. So you turn in your employment authorization document, and right now the processing time is pretty quick. Usually about within 1 month, you'll get your work permit. But again, you have to wait 5 months after you file your asylum application before you can send in your work permit application. Your work permit arrives. Then you can lawfully work here in the United States. You can get your Social Security card. You can use your work permit and your Social Security card to get your driver's license. And then you have your individual hearing. What the judge will do is actually issue what's called a call-up date. What is a call-up date? A call-up date is the date that you need to have all of your evidence turned into the court. So what type of evidence would you typically turn in an asylum case? Well, what I like to do with my clients is not only do we fill out the asylum application, but we often have our clients do a personal statement in much greater detail about why they're scared to return to their home country. We also might get letters from friends or family, or depending on what type of claim. For example, if it's a religious persecution claim, proof that they're a member of a church or whatever type of claim they have. We also, for example, if someone is in opposition to the government, we might show proof in membership to a political party. And we also like to include country conditions reports, meaning articles talking about what's going on in the country. Is it safe for them to return? Will they be persecuted? Also, if someone has been harmed or targeted or persecuted in the past, we often do what's called a psychological evaluation, where we have our client meet with a psychologist for a few sessions and report why they're scared to return to their country. And then the psychologist will actually do a detailed evaluation written, and we'll use that to turn its case. Because in reality, most people who have a legit claim of asylum do not go around their community trying to get evidence before they come to the United States. What they're doing is fleeing for their lives to the United States, so when they get here, they have next to no documentation for their asylum case. So what happens then? That call-up date typically is either 2 weeks or a month before the final court hearing. At the final individual hearing, you'll walk into the courtroom, and there will be an interpreter available if you don't speak English fluently. Also, there will be your attorney, or if you're representing yourself, you'll have your own desk. And then the government will have its own desk with an ICE attorney. And then there's an immigration judge. And what's going to happen during that hearing? Well, You're going to have to answer a bunch of questions from your attorney about why you're scared to return to your home country. And then what the ICE attorney is going to do is they've reviewed all of the evidence. They're going to try to find inconsistencies in your testimony, inconsistencies in your application, making sure that everything that you say is true. And ultimately, the judge will make two decisions. First, are you credible? Meaning, are you honest? Right? And so that's critically important in an asylum application because, like I said, there's next to no direct evidence of someone threatening to harm or kill you. So once that credibility determination is made, then the judge will make a decision onto whether to grant asylum. And typically, most asylum claims that are denied because you cannot establish a significant nexus to why you'd be persecuted. And what do I mean by that when I say nexus? Well, to win asylum, you have to show a well-founded fear of persecution based on race, religion, nationality, political opinion, or membership to a particular social group. Just because you're a victim of crime, for example, a victim of extortion, or a gang says they'll kill you if you don't join them, that does not mean that you win asylum. You have to show that you will be persecuted based on one of those 5 categories. So, if you're able to establish that nexus, meaning prove that you'll be harmed because of your connection to one of those 5 categories, then the judge has authority under immigration law to grant asylum. So, if you are lucky and you win your asylum case, the judge grants you asylum and immediately you have lawful status. You're again authorized to work. This time you don't even need a work permit if you've been granted asylum. And 1 year after you've been granted asylum, then you can file your permanent resident application, but you have to wait at least 1 year after the grant of asylum to file for permanent residence. Once you have permanent residence, that's when you can travel internationally. However, if you won your case based on not asylum, absolutely you should not travel to your home country, or when it comes time to file for citizenship, which you can do after 5 years of permanent residency, they can actually deny your citizenship because you traveled to your home country, which your whole claim of asylum is based on fear of return. So once you're granted citizenship, then yes, at that point, if you choose, you do have legal authority to travel to your home country. So that's the asylum process explained in a nutshell.